Welcome to the Your Life Matters show, your gateway to a world where health, wellness, and the pulse of humanity converge. Get ready to embark on a captivating journey filled with enriching conversations, inspiring stories, and insightful perspectives that will leave you feeling empowered and enlightened. Sit back and enjoy an entertaining and educational experience that celebrates the essence of health and well-being. Because in this space, your health matters, your wellness matters, and your life matters. Our hosts are Steve Hodgson and psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis.
Welcome to the Your Life Matters Show podcast. We ask that you please note that the information presented in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only, and does not constitute medical advice. It is essential to consult with a qualified healthcare professional for any medical concerns, diagnosis, or treatment. This podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice, and any actions taken based on the information presented are at your own risk. We are so glad you made the choice to watch our show this evening and join us for another episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast with your hosts, Steve Hodgson and Dr. Eric L. Davis. Let's watch what this evening's podcast is all about.
Well, we're going to try it now.
In this episode of the Your Life Matters Show, we're going to dive into the intriguing world of conspiracy theories. So, stick around as we unravel the mysteries and insights surrounding this fascinating topic. And now let's get right to it. The title of today's episode is How Conspiracy Theories Hijack the Brain and How to Break Free. Did you know a comprehensive study published in Scientific Reports analyzed data from multiple surveys between 2012 and 2022? It examined the associations between socio-demographic characteristics and beliefs in various conspiracy theories. The study found that factors like age, education level, and political affiliation can influence the likelihood of endorsing conspiracy theories. Also, a 2024 Pew Research Center survey found that 74% of Black Americans believe the U.S. criminal justice system was designed to hold Black people back. These beliefs are often rooted in historical experiences of discrimination and systemic injustice. Moreover, a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences reported that 73% of Americans believe conspiracy theories are currently out of control, and 59% agree that people are more likely to believe in conspiracy theories compared to 25 years ago. The same study indicated that 77% of Americans believe that social media and the internet are responsible for the increase in conspiracy theory beliefs. These statistics, really highlight the pervasive nature of conspiracy theories in American society. They underscore the importance of understanding the psychological and social factors that contribute to their belief. It's crucial to get a grip on this, folks. So why do people believe in conspiracy theories? Mental health meets misinformation. Why are conspiracy theories so appealing, even to smart, educated people? In this episode, we dive deep into the psychology of conspiracy thinking with host Steve Hodgson and our co-host Dr. Eric L. Davis, a licensed psychotherapist. Watch as they explore how anxiety, trauma, cognitive biases, and a need for control can make the mind more vulnerable to misinformation. From QAnon and 9/11 truthers to COVID-19 vaccine myths and celebrity conspiracies, we'll be unpacking the emotional and neurological factors that drive belief, and how to talk to someone caught in a conspiracy rabbit hole without pushing them away. So, here's what you'll learn. Why pattern recognition and confirmation bias fuel false beliefs, the link between mental health and conspiracy theories, traits that make people more prone to conspiratorial thinking, how therapists approach these beliefs in clinical settings, and tips for having those difficult conversations with loved ones. Again, why are conspiracy theories so convincing and so hard to shake? This brand new episode will explore the emotional and mental health roots of conspiracy belief. Sit back and relax, and let your host take you on the journey into why your mind behaves as it does. Here are Steve Hodgson and Dr. Eric Davis.
So anyway, folks, welcome to our show. I'm Steve Hodgson, again, our darling co-host here, our psychotherapist, Dr. Eric L. Davis. Dr. Davis, thank you for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.
Indiana.
Yep.
Yep. Did you have a good trip at least to Orlando?
Yeah, we had it was really nice. There was a lot of rain, but I mean, honestly, I love Florida. I really do. I just think it's so beautiful, and someday I might move there. We'll see.
I said the same thing, and here I am now. So it can happen, okay? Now, tonight we're going to be talking, like it said here, something I think we're going to have a little bit of fun with, too, as far as the seriousness of the show, too. But, for me, a really, really long time ago, and I've talked about this before on the show, I had a great friend, the late Kev Baker, okay? And he was from Glasgow, Scotland. Now, Kev used to have a podcast on, and he was the one that actually got me back into podcasting. I mean, besides Bill. Bill Bean used to be on the show, but I was listening to Kev almost every day for a different reason. Okay, not just because Bill was on every once in a while, or, some other people that I really became good friends with. Kev would cover a lot of topics like aliens, UFO, paranormal, government, so much. I mean, you name it, he covered it. And God bless him. He got some great guests. I don't know how he did it, but he had some people on the show that, people would give their right finger for. I mean, some of the top-notch people. But the thing is, he would approach the subject intelligently, and the guests he'd interview would share their knowledge and experiences on the subject that he had at hand. Heck, I was a guest on his show probably about 10 times talking about the paranormal and all the information I had from the 40-something years of investigating. It was his amazing personality, too. God bless him. He's such a great person, and we miss him a lot. Okay, now, I have Amazon Fire Stick. Okay, that's what I watch TV with. Unfortunately, I don't watch cable TV. I have to watch, what I can find. And most of the time, it's either Philo, which gives me a bunch of stuff, or YouTube. Okay, and I spend a lot of time watching YouTube. Let's just put it that way. And
if it makes you feel any better, I do too.
It's actually, I love some of the stuff, the history, and some of the topics on there. But having said that, there's so many conspiracy theories videos that are out there. Okay, there was one. I mean, the one lone shooter who killed President Kennedy. Did we really land on the moon? Or did Stanley Kubrick, have a big production on a soundstage? Okay, is there any collusion between Putin and Trump? Though in the last couple of days, I doubt it. Okay, lately, who signed all the documents with Biden's auto pen is one of the ones now. Okay, did we, our own government, do 9/11? Okay, were we responsible for it? The New World Order, chemtrails, COVID-19 origins, COVID-19 vaccine and poisoning, DNA changes from the vaccine, okay, chemtrails, I mean, everything. Satanic messages in songs. Okay, Bill has a couple of great shows on that. Okay, messages when you play music backwards. Okay, was Taylor Swift a part of the covert effort to help Biden win the 2024 election? I'm sorry, I find that one really funny. Okay, there are so many theories and conspiracies. I didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg, nowhere near it. But I want to have a little fun. So if we can, I'm going to talk a little bit, but let's go through a couple of these. Government surveillance theories. Okay, they're probably watching us right now. Okay, listening very careful to every word Dr. Davis and I say about this, because, that's, you see, I figured it out, Dr. Davis, okay? That's why your camera has so many problems, is that they're tapping your line to catch you on there, okay? Yeah. People think their stuff is being watched. Okay, now we know some stuff that we're going to talk about, which we're going to gloss over tonight, has been proven true. Conspiracies sometimes are true. This isn't a show tonight about what's true and what's not true. I guess I should really start that off right away. The show is really more about the psychology behind what takes place in the conspiracy theories. But there are a lot of, I could go on and on. Today I was watching TV. this afternoon, and I was watching more and more conspiracy theories as I was flipping through, and I won't even remember half of what I saw this afternoon. The Illuminati, the whole world order, the New World Order,
the reptilians.
We'll get to the reptilians too. But there's a whole bunch of these rich people that are out there that are controlling everything we do. And they're manipulating world events because they want specific goals. Okay. Fascist and communist infiltration. It suggests that countries and groups have infiltrated us, and they're secretly working to control society. Guess a little bit part the Illuminati sent them, or the New World Order, talk about. The scary part is, yes, I know people are going to say, yeah, we joke about the New World Order, but you hear so many politicians and stuff around the world give speeches about the New World Order. So is there something behind that? I don't know. Chemtrails. Okay, I have a friend of mine that swears that, when you look up in the sky and you see those planes and it looks like, they're blanketing the sky with this stuff. This is all part of the health problems we're getting. They're trying to alter the environment. You're from Indiana, Eric, so you know what I'm talking about. The skylines are beautiful. I mean, there's times I'll drive along roads, and I used to just stop. And my wife would be like, why are you stopping?
Yeah.
It's like, look at that. I mean, it's beautiful, okay, what's out there.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah,
it is.
And then, as you say, you see one of those planes come by, and all of a sudden you can't see anything in the sky anymore. So whatever they're doing, okay, pandemics, fake disease, okay, the false flag terrorism, okay, terrorist acts are staged by government. Yes, exactly. Backmasking, okay, where we're talking about with music, where they're recording messages backwards, okay, and our brains are supposed to be able to figure out what they're saying backwards. Listen, folks, I know I'm getting old, okay, I was in rock music a very, very long time, okay, I can't even understand some of the stuff they're saying today forward. Forget about backwards. I mean, it's hard to comprehend the lyrics and to think that somewhere in there that, worship Satan is being said somewhere. I mean, come on, folks. Okay, urban legends.
I mean, I'll be the first. I'm a huge metalhead. I like the heaviest music you could imagine, and I'm not satanic.
Yeah.
I mean, and neither are they typically. I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. But Beatles, they talked about Paul is dead in Revolution #9, okay, and that Paul McCartney is a fake Paul McCartney. It was a replacement along the way. Bill Beaton.
Have you heard the one that Michael Jackson is the? I can't remember the name, but basically it's a gentleman who's burned, and they say that's Michael Jackson. I mean, I'm just throwing out some conspiracy theories.
There are so many of them. Rock musicians are, throwing satanic symbols. Okay, there was a recent thing. There's a channel on YouTube, it's a religious channel, and he was showing at the Super Bowl the one year where they had Jay-Z, Eminem, and all of them. It's a Super Bowl halftime show where they're actually showing the whole time, they're putting up the devil symbols and stuff. And, I don't know. I really, really don't know. If those that watched it, I don't have it on here anymore, but the commercial that for, I think it was Burger King. Did you see the one I had when I had Bill on the show that they had put out? So it was like mocking baptism a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. If during the show, if I can find it, I'll play it again because I'm sure I have it somewhere on my computer. I saved it. And it is an unbelievable video. I mean, completely unbelievable video. Okay. There's some other ones that some of you probably haven't heard about, like Jesus and Mary Magdalene might have been married. Okay. They had talked about it for years. My favorite is They're Among Us. Okay. The blood drinking, flesh eating, shape shifting, extraterrestrial reptilian humanoids with only one objective and their cold-blooded little heads to enslave the human race. They're our leaders, our corporate executives, our beloved Oscar winners and Grammy winners, and they're responsible for the Holocaust, the Oklahoma City bombings, and the 9/11 attacks. Now, that was a mouthful just in itself. Okay? And
if anybody out there wants to hear more about that, David Icke is who speaks about that all the time. David Icke.
And who's the other guy the one that got
Alex
sued?
Jones?
Yes.
Alex Jones,
yeah. He's some of Alex Jones's stuff he's talked about has been proven. Has come out later on as being fact. So, even like Kev used to say, you don't know. Okay, it's possible, but they're saying that AIDS and HIV epidemic was rumored to have persisted back in 1981 and was created by the CIA to wipe out homosexuals and African Americans. Now, I don't know why it just came into my head. Way back, there was some show that we did. I think it was one Your Life Matters show with Jen and Steve, where we interviewed somebody who talked about that and went into the full details and stats behind that. Okay, obviously it's never been proven, but hey, anything's possible. Now, the black helicopters, okay, it started in the U.S. in the 1960s that the UN had a force, and they would arrive in black helicopters to bring the U.S. under UN control. Okay, they talk about the destruction of Korean Airlines Flight 007 by Soviet jets. Coca-Cola Company intentionally changed the inferior formula with New Coke with the intent of driving up demand for the original product and preventing the reintroduction of the original product too, and people would run out and buy it. Okay, we can go to the lost books of the Bible or the Bible of the you have the Coca-Cola.
I perfect timing.
Yep, and we just mentioned about Sandy Hook. What was interesting about Sandy Hook is that a friend of mine that I worked for, and it's a close friend of mine, it's a chiropractor. He lives in Newtown, Connecticut. Now, I knew in Newtown, Connecticut. I didn't live that far away, maybe 25, 30 minutes away. And this school was like a block and a half from his school, from his home. Wow. So, I remember talking to him when it happened. And I said, is this something that was fake? And he told me 2 of his friends, kids, were killed.
Wow.
And he said that wasn't fake. Yeah. So, okay, so let's...
And that's what Alex Jones got sued for.
Yeah, what he got sued for, yeah. One of the things people have to worry about today is AI. There was a video I watched earlier today. It was a warning about don't fall for phony videos anymore that are on the web. I mean, they made AI almost look real. Yeah. I mean, really almost look real. So the fact is that, you see a video on the web, let's say Trump saying, I want to kill every Democrat. That's my plan. I'm either going to deport them or I'm going to kill every one of them. You really need to pay attention to that. Okay, we're not phony. We're real, I think. Yeah. Okay. And heck, I watched something today that said you shouldn't even knock on wood because knock on wood was some kind of evil practice that they used to do where they used to knock on trees. They asked the trees to help come out and the spirits of the trees to protect them. So it's actually against...
I never knew that.
To say knock on wood, yeah. This was from some exorcist. That's what it was. I was watching some Catholic priest who's been an exorcist for 30 years. And he was talking about the 8 things you need to steer away from. Not to let Satan into your life. Okay. So, Dr. Davis, help us out. Okay, let's start off. Let's look at some of the functionality. from your experience, okay, why are conspiracy theories so psychologically appealing?
If you think about the inherent human need to understand and know, that's like, what is the meaning of life? All these deep questions. So anytime there's something, really deep, conspiracy theories can provide some like closure. It also makes people feel like they may be in a select group that really knows what's going on versus everyone else. It adds a sense of belonging and identity to people where, they can meet with others and talk about things. And I think of like gang stalking. If you've heard of that, you can watch videos about gang stalking on YouTube, and it's a big conspiracy thing. Perhaps most importantly, though, it's conspiracy theories provide a narrative for why something happens, why something bad is happening, often with like very clear villains, and as time marches on, I mean, we're seeing lots of that in the world. Sometimes conspiracy theories can give people a sense of, feeling better, feeling soothed or empowered. And those are the basic principles of that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I blocked my own microphone there.
That's all.
Okay, because I actually found that film. I'm trying to upload it while we're talking that Burger King commercial. Yeah, I mean, we know that there's certain things like certain life experiences that we deal with. Trauma we've talked about before. Okay, loss, social isolation, and all that stuff together. I mean, does that make us more prone to believing in these conspiracy theories?
Yeah, I think so, because if you think about trauma, for example, or grief and loss, the reality is sometimes bad things happen to good people, and sometimes there isn't a reason. I mean, I can tell you that from being a therapist for 25 years. Sometimes there just is not a reason that something bad would happen. It just does. So, having loss, trauma, it does help to increase the vulnerability. It breaks my heart because I know that, especially in more recent years, conspiracy theories have really torn a lot of families apart, and I hate to hear that, because that's sad.
Yeah, it's, I know I have friends that, a couple of them that are like that I get constant stuff about. There's one that I used to go to church with in Indiana, and he no longer lives in Indiana. I'll just leave it at that, so I'm not giving away who he is. Okay, but he constantly sends me stuff on conspiracy. I have a friend that lives down there to constantly ask me questions about what my thoughts are on the moon landing.
Yeah.
Okay, and would we do a podcast on the moon landing? And my answer keeps being, well, maybe one of my old podcasts that I used to do, yes, but that doesn't, that's not the kind of shows that we're doing now. But I get together sometimes. There are family members, like as you say, that you can get together with, or even friends, with all they want to do is talk about that. Now, I'm not 100% convinced. You know what? I'm one of those people that enjoy them. That's going to sound really strange, but I love watching the History Channel. I like watching documentaries on stuff that took place, back in ancient Egypt and all that stuff. And look at they found underneath the pyramid.
Mm-hmm. Yes, isn't it?
Isn't it a whole structure that
goes?
Yeah,
that's wild.
So and the conspiracy theory is, why they knew about this. They've been trying to cover it up. What the pyramids are used for is a whole nother one. Okay, I mean, they say it was for the king's burial. They never found a burial chamber. They never found the body inside a king's body or anything. So conspiracy theories say, yeah, okay, was it done by aliens help build? Because how the heck did they get those blocks up there? I mean, so much so that there's most of the areas you can't even put a credit card in between the two blocks. That's how tight they are together. So who built those? Was there a civilization that was so much more advanced than we are that destroyed themselves? And then the question is, are we heading there ourselves? So I enjoy listening to them, but do you think it's fear or anxiety that's pulling people towards these belief systems? In other words, they can't explain what's going on in the world today. So is it easier just to say, is a conspiracy going on? Does it make it easier?
I mean, so fear is a major, driver of conspiracy theories. It comes, like I was saying, it comes from the desire to understand what's actually going on or why things such as those all play a role.
Okay, hold on. You seem to have, Eric, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to bring you back in. Let's see. Yeah, now we're better. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
The video in, it sort of knocked everybody out. I brought it into the studio on the side, and it knocked both of us out.
So basically, fear primes the brain. It primes the brain to seek safety, to understand what's going on, to have certainty, to identify threats. And, if there's no clear solution, then a lot of times the mind can, default to worst case scenarios. And something that a conspiracy theory that just popped up into my head was all the ones about Antarctica. Tons of conspiracy theories about Antarctica and what they found beneath the ice and just all these things. I mean, those rabbit holes can be fun to explore sometimes, but at the same time, we have to understand, just like with, detectives or investigators, a lot of times they'll find themselves with a theory. And then, like a lot of investigators talk about, if you're not careful when you're investigating, you will just look for what you think rather than being objective. And, I think that conspiracy theories really come from the same type of thing, where it just, if it makes more sense to me that this happened, it's like, and there's no way to disprove that necessarily sometimes.
Right. Now, okay, so I'm going to run this commercial now that I brought it in here. It's like, and we'll see this. Are we creating a conspiracy theory that it has a mocking of religion, or is it just, just happens that way?
That was wild.
Okay, so you look at conspiracy. There's a couple of things I noticed that I didn't notice the first time, like when they dropped the egg, okay, and they were carrying it almost like Jesus was carrying the cross. And I don't know if you realized it, but they dropped the egg 3 times. And
Jesus fell 3
times while he was carrying the cross. Those jackets that people are wearing. I mean, I was brought up Roman Catholic, so I had the Franciscan friars. And a few times we'd have to look like a Franciscan friar type robe with the hood and everything else. I mean, it's, and baptism ways being, baptism into the water and stuff. I mean, Bill had some wonderful thoughts about it and stuff. I mean, it's a wild little video. Okay. And of course, I've read so many conspiracy theories on that you see what they're trying to do is numb us to Christianity. So that it's okay just to mock Christianity, just make fun of it, and it'd be fine, And little by little, they can disprove it and push it aside. And, I'm not going to get into the theological conversation, but I thought it fit in a little bit with conspiracy, because when you see a video like that, you start, well, who's behind that? Okay, it's the same with AOC in New York. Okay, it's like, who's funding her? Who's behind all the weird stuff? Even with Bernie Sanders and stuff, who's behind a lot of the stuff he's saying? Your conspiracies are really wild. And you had left off with a good point there about where people that are researching these theories get lost. Okay, by their findings are a little shadowed by their thoughts on the subject. I'm going to go back when we were doing the paranormal, Jen and I. Okay, we'd go into someone's house, and it wasn't like, okay, great, we're going to have another paranormal investigation. Yeah, this was more. We went into a house to disprove. Like if I went into your home and you were saying, this was happening, we were going in to disprove what was happening in your house. Now, if we couldn't disprove it and things were happening that we could document, well, then it started to become, something that's interesting. Okay, and rather talking about orbs, okay, if you have a question about orbs, I'll send you to good old Keith Age. Keith Age is perfect for orbs. Just ask him about orbs. He's very calm on the subject when it comes to orbs. But one of the things we always saw was pareidolia. Okay, where people see things in images and their brain puts it together into something. Now, I actually grabbed a couple of things that I want to show here. Let's see if I can get to all of them. My favorite one here is the man on the moon. Okay,
I remember that on the cover of the Sun Times or whatever it was back in the day.
Yeah, everybody thinks that's, your brain is putting that together. Okay, how many times you've looked up in the clouds? Okay, and you see the cloud that looks like something. There's actually a whole phenomenon behind that, and I meant to look it up this afternoon to see what it was called. But these cloud images and stuff that's in there. How about, I see stuff all the time in clouds, and I usually joke to myself about it. Okay, you even have like a cliff. I mean, this is just a cliff, and people see a face in that cliff. Okay, why? Mm-hmm. Because that's what our brain puts random stuff together to make some kind of order out of it. One of my favorite was like a coffee cup, okay? And we see these weird things inside of a coffee cup, and we just believe that it's true. And it's a normal cognitive function where people perceive unfamiliar patterns, faces, and random stimuli. That's actually what the definition of it. Though pareidolia was first linked to mental illness, it's now understood as a normal part of human experience and the way your brain attempts to make sense of the world. But isn't that really the same thing with conspiracy theories?
Yeah, I think so. What you made me think of was talking about Bloody Mary. wipe the water or whatever. And of course, you're going to see things in that because that's what your brain's looking for. Basically, the brain is constantly trying to identify everything it sees. That's why, in fact, when someone's having, like anxiety or when they need to kind of ground themselves, we'll tell them to practice mindfulness and basically give compound details of things like, yellow picture, green shirt, those sorts of things, because then you're focused on what you see, and that can take you out of whatever. You can also focus on what you see, and that just drives you further into what you see. I think a lot of conspiracy theories really just come from just over analytical processing.
I mean, so these cognitive biases obviously are at play when we're doing the conspiracy thinking.
Definitely. In fact, I've been seeing a lot of shorts on YouTube. So like when I'm watching shorts or whatever, and basically I cannot for the life of me think what the channel is, but it's a guy, and I know that the music is do 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 do, one of those, but it's just a real quick short, and it'll show he goes on Google and he types, I don't know. He asks a question. It's like, and the answer is 31. And then he takes that and he searches another thing, and it goes deeper. And, it just kind of walks you through very quickly. Like, this goes to this, goes to this, goes to that. I mean, and that, I think that is normal. If we're interested in something and we think we have a theory on what could be happening, if we're not careful, we could just look for things and basically cherry pick things that prove that theory while overlooking things that honestly could just as quickly disprove them.
There's a show on, it's called The Y-Files. That's on YouTube. I can't think of AJ's last name. He was just recently on Joe Rogan's podcast too, the Joe Rogan Experience. And I got into his show about a year ago because he covers some very, very interesting topics. And he'll go through the conspiracy. And, you're watching it after a while and you think to myself, my goodness, okay, this is true. Listen to this. Okay. And then he'll cover it and then he'll stop and say, okay, but here's what's really going on, and start to make sense out of some of the stuff. This never happened. There's no proof. This is what actually happened, but this is how somebody picked it up in some book someplace, and now that's being taken as folklore that this is what really happened in the incident. With Roswell is probably one of the things. And he's done so many shows, and I enjoy watching it because he takes a different subject, but really does his homework. I mean, he has a whole staff of people that research stuff, and it's really good because I like well-presented shows like that. Okay, and he's one that sometimes he says, I'd like to debunk some of this, but I can't. It's the same thing.
You know what I just thought of?
Mm-hmm.
I just thought of a conspiracy theory therapy story. If you want to hear it,
most definitely.
Quick. So years ago, there was a client that came to me. He scheduled a mental health assessment. He wanted a psych eval, basically. And so he came in, and I'm doing the thing, and it's like, what prompted you to come in today? Is there something that happened? And he told me, he said, he had been, he was using drugs, so he's getting high. But then he also had seen a video on YouTube where he saw it was basically a lady, where they'll show on TV and they're shape shifting, there's a glitch in the eye or
right.
Like I'm not shape shifting. I just have a problem with my camera over here, So basically we talked
being down from another planet. Okay. Right now. So
yeah, that's what he was like. So I saw that and he said, it freaked me out. And I was really proud of myself because I said, have you been watching David Icke videos? And he's like, yeah, that's, and I said, hey, I've watched David Icke videos too, and they're really interesting. And I said, but there's two things that are sticking out to me. One, maybe getting high is not a good fit for you, because it sounds like that, that's exacerbating some paranoia. And also, and I can't remember how I said it, but I think I said, think about this. If you and I said to him, if you and I were reptilians, and the truth was we're here to eat everybody on Earth and all that, and there were some people that knew that and were saying it, why would we let them live? Why wouldn't we put a stop to that? And and it was kind of, and I mean, who am I to say? I have no idea if there's reptilians or not, but at the end of the day, like that's not happening. That's likely not happening, and he really, I mean, at that point, he's like, well, I probably need to quit getting high and quit watching that stuff. And I never heard from him again. So either I helped him to figure it out, or
the
aliens got him.
Why do you think? Like, are you trying to say that smoking weed causes paranoia?
Yeah, it sure can.
Yeah, most drugs, the cops. I heard a noise outside. That the
the
police.
Tree police.
Yeah, really. I see so many of the same videos you're talking about there, where all of a sudden someone's eyes like change. Okay, but that I'm still going back, unless I'm sitting there with you and your eyes do that right in front of me where I see it eye to eye. That's artificial intelligence. Okay, coming up with that stuff. You can play all you want. Okay, with AI.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, AI can actually write music now.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it can write an entire song for you. I mean, I actually started playing around with it in one day of saying, gee, let it come up with a theme song for a show.
Yeah. Was it cool?
Music. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it can, if I asked it to do it. Yeah. They probably charge me for it, to do it. But, it's just interesting. We just have to, we'll do another show on this coming up at some point here, to be careful with AI.
Yeah.
Because AI, as interesting as artificial intelligence is scary. Come on, there's another conspiracy theory that we can put on that they're going to take over the world. Okay? I mean, the guy who, again, another video I watched the other day, but they're interviewing this guy they call the godfather of AI. Okay, this is a guy who actually originally developed artificial intelligence years ago. And he even said there's a 30%, 30% chance that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. The guy who developed this stuff is telling you that it's possible this can happen. And, to me, that's a little scary. Okay, that really is a little frightening on that. Many of our listeners have loved ones gone down that rabbit hole, that conspiracy rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Heck, remember even our first show, we talked about dealing with political subjects with family members. Okay, a lot of these conspiracy theories fall right into line, with the politics stuff. So what advice do you give someone when they're talking to someone who's so conspiracy minded? How do you hold a conversation with them?
I think the key, here's what I can tell you, and this is just in my own experience as a therapist, but what I've found when, obviously I'm not there to, tell people what to think, I'm there to help them process what they're thinking, whatever that is, and help them explore different ideas, etc. I've always found that if I start the conversation acknowledging, that, hey, I can understand why it may look like that, help me understand, basically asking, tell me why you believe that. And it's not even so much about an argument, that I think that's the problem with conspiracy theories, because sometimes people will believe in them so wholeheartedly that it's almost like there's an inability to hear anything else or communicate. And on the other shoe or whatever, there are also people who don't believe in them so much that they can't see anything else. So it's, I love the saying, there's a little truth in every lie, and I just think that if you look at conspiracy theories as entertainment, that's probably okay. The problem is some of them are really, really believable. And like you said, there have been several that have been proven in the past.
Yeah,
so, I think it's acknowledging that it's okay to have a difference of opinion and to try and understand why they believe what they believe.
I just find it really, really weird that there are people, just for myself as a regular person, that people can be so lost in that. I mean, they live their life around the fact that, Big Brother is watching them. Okay. Yeah. I mean, certain news events doesn't hurt. Okay. That, them doing that. I mean, when they found out the NSA was recording every single telephone call. There you go. Big Brother's watching.
It's just funny. I have that on my, behind me on my shelf.
Yeah. I mean, really, we know the NSA was tapping all the phone calls. Okay. Everybody's phone call. Your, mine. Okay. And, all the things that went on with Verizon and AT&T with the government, turning over texts and stuff like that, phone records. That doesn't help, to the person who thinks that, whoever it is, the New World Order, is trying to destroy us. I mean, they want to take away all our money. They want us, with Bitcoin and stuff. Okay, I'm a little on the fence with that myself. Okay, I'd rather have the money in my hand and know I have money than it out in some computer someplace.
Tangible money.
Yeah, and let's look at it. If AI is so powerful as it's going to, why can't it just go in and wipe out all the records of Bitcoin and you're broke?
I never thought about that. Darn it, now you got me thinking about it.
Yeah, well, think about that. I mean, AI somebody who controls AI can go in and just wipe out almost an entire economy with that. And that, to me, that's scary. But you see, what conspiracy theories have made me do is not believe in them as much as being careful. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being careful to a degree. Would you agree with that? I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that because we don't know, so there is, it's okay to be a little bit cautious. It's okay to, like, what's the old saying? Trust but verify. But in today's world, I mean, the reality is fake information is only going to continue to look more and more and more like non-fake information. And that scares me too, because it's like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I won't be able to trust anything I see? And, not necessarily that, but question what you see sometimes. Look closer, just to be sure, just be safe.
How many emails we all get, spam emails, but my favorite lately is that, I just finished spending $3,000 on PayPal for, a new phone or something like that. And it's like, when people click on those links, okay, as I always tell people, no matter how much it looks, wherever you're going to click, just run your mouse over the top of it. Don't click anything. Just put your mouse over the top. The address is going to pop up. And if it's not PayPal.com that's on there, don't click on that, folks. Yeah. Okay? Go to PayPal. If you're that worried, close the email, go to PayPal.com, log into your account, and see if there's a transaction on your account. If there's no transaction, then it's a phony. There's many, many ways around it. And, as we're, gosh, I mean, we didn't even touch on a lot of what I wanted to, but once again, we're down to like 8 minutes left of the show. So,
but the beauty of that is we can revisit this topic again.
Right. And a lot of these shows we're going to, like the PTSD show, we're probably going to, and I have someone that I'll talk to you about there, that's a veteran that came back from fighting in the war, and he has PTSD. Okay, and we'll speak to them And in fact, I interviewed this person a long time ago about a book that they wrote, and I just came across them today on Facebook, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that might be really good. And I know this gentleman would be more than happy to do a podcast with us about it. So, because we cover a topic and we touch lightly on it, doesn't mean we're not going to go back to it. Okay, that we're going to do more and more shows on it. So I'm just curious to people, what's your favorite conspiracy theory? Okay, that you think there's some kind of truth behind. Okay, put it in the comments, email us. I mean, it'd be interesting to see, what your feelings are on it. And, it could have been something we mentioned this evening, or it could be some entirely different theory. Okay, I mean, there's so many theories out there. Just let us know. I mean, if you're watching the video back later, put it in the comment section. Now, before I go, or we go, I should say, there's one more conspiracy theory I have to cover.
All right.
Okay, and you don't even know about this theory. I guarantee you don't know about this theory. Okay, and it's about this show, and it's about our hosts. So let's watch.
Before my birth, my path was made. Now for your lives, mine I will trade.
So the question
That is
remains-
all. I've never seen those pictures of you, and I've known you for a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, were we musicians somewhere at one time? Okay, or are we this podcast and psychotherapist that's sitting here holding the show? I just, there's a conspiracy out there that we missed our real callings, along the way. So don't ask me what made me think of that yesterday when I was sitting here doing nothing. I was like, I think I can have some fun because I've seen your videos and stuff. I was like, okay. And I was looking for actually video of mine, but I would have had to do a whole bunch of work to get one on there. So I decided to go that way. So anyway, folks, we've had a real, huh?
I just said that made my night. That was awesome to see that. I've never seen those pictures of you. That
yeah, I mean, I've been doing that since I was like 17, 18 years old. I was playing in bands. And, one or two of those pictures were actually outside shows when, we'd even have outdoor equipment. But we like set up a stage in a parking lot. Okay, we put lights. We actually had, theater lights we put outside, and we actually played as a 4-piece band for a while. I played in wedding bands. I've done rock bands, and actually what you were hearing there, the music behind mine was one of my originals that I recorded live. Okay, which was actually pretty cool too. So, and then I knew there was so many of yours that were out there that I found there too. And, I remember the first time Dr. Davis and I, when he was on our show, the last incarnation of our show. And when we talked about the book, before we went on the air, he was actually turned the camera and was showing me the drums that were in the corner, okay, that he still had. See, he's looking at them now, okay?
Here, there we go.
See, there they are in the corner.
The acoustic one's over there. And I also have that's my mom's bass. It's pink with black polka dots.
Yeah.
You can see it back behind.
Yes, I can see that behind the pillar. That's there, yep. And as you can see, mine, sit behind me, when I play. This wasn't robbing from Bill Bean's stuff where he has his guitars behind him. That's actually in my office. There are guitars, some mandolins and stuff like that too. Used to have keyboards in here, and I sort of just ran out of room for a while. So we've had a great conversation this evening. It's wild how I can latch on to conspiracy theories when we're feeling anxious, isolated or trying to make some sense out of this screwed up world we live in. But the good news is we can learn to spot the patterns, we can ask better questions, and stay grounded, and everything else feels uncertain. Big thanks to my co-host, Dr. Eric L. Davis, today
Thanks
for
to
sharing
you.
his opening insights with us and his musical talents with us as well.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning into Your Life Matters Show podcast. Now remember, if this podcast hit home, got you thinking, go ahead and share it. Leave a review, send it to a friend who might need it. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button. It only takes a few seconds, does help the channel. Remember, we're not sponsored by anybody. There is some cost for these things. So, we don't mind, as we said, if we can help just one person with each episode, then we're doing our job. So until next week, remember, this is a place where every episode is a journey into the heart of what truly matters: your health, your adventures, the issues shaping our world, and especially the issues affecting your life today. Now, whether you're seeking inspiration, advice, or simply a moment of reflection, we hope this podcast will be a compass for navigating that beautiful line of the life that we should be living. Now, take care of yourself, stay hopeful, and remember, your story matters, your journey matters, and above all, please never forget, your life matters. God bless you all, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for this week's new episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Please be sure to join us again next week for another great episode with your host Steve Hodgson and psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you are valuable and important. Take time to cherish yourself and those around you. Never forget, your life matters.